The F-104 Starfighter is a single-engine, single-seat supersonic interceptor fighter developed by Lockheed. The F-104 Starfighter received great expectations that will give the US Air Force an advantage in the sky all over the world. But its days of activity brought shame to the US Air Force, especially during the Vietnam War. Brought to Vietnam in 1965, the F-104 did not give a complete advantage to the US Air Force before the MiG-17 was considered the old version of the North Vietnamese Air Force. Even before he could fire the MiG, F-104 fighter has fallen himself. It was the US Air Force that admitted that at least 6 out of 14 F-104s lost in Vietnam were self-falling. The last F-104, which the US lost in the Vietnam War on May 14, 1967, when it had an engine crash at the time of fighting in the skies of Cambodia. Then it flew to Thailand for emergency landing. Shortly thereafter, all F-104 aircraft in Vietnam were banned from flying because of their weak technical skills and were eventually withdrawn to make room for F-4 Phantom. The fate of the Starfighter was decided only 2 years later. It was removed from the US Air Force in 1969. The F-104 became a mass production fighter with the fastest hours of service in US Air Force history, only 11 years, from 1958 to 1969. Although not used in the United States, the F-104 still exists in some US allies in both Asia and Europe, but was badly criticized. In Pakistan, during the war with India in 1971, F-104 was knocked down by MiG-21. In Western Europe, Germany brought 916 F-104s from the US, but they quickly realized that they had made a serious mistake when buying faulty stars. During use from 1970 to 1991, 292 out of 916 Starfighter were shot down, killing 115 elite pilots. The Italian Air Force purchased a total of 360 F-104s and entered the equipment from 1964. As of 1977, the country lost a total of 137 aircraft because of the accident. The reason why the F-104 was unsafe has many ways to explain, but generally, the problem lies in its design from the beginning, with its long body, but the pair of slightly small triangle wings. These affect the stability of flight. It was recommended that pilots always maintain flight speed everywhere at all times. J-79 jet engine encountered a design error. Accordingly, this engine was designed to automatically change the angle of the stator compression automatically based on the pitch and temperature. A condition known as T2 reset, a common function that changes the stator compression angle, caused many engine failures when taking off. It has been covered that a sudden and high temperature change caused the propeller to compress the stator wrongly and stop the engine. In addition, the emergency ejection seat of the F-104 pilot was too unique. Instead of shooting upwards, head down to place the pilot at a dangerous situation when an emergency jump. Although the engine and ejection seat problem was later fixed on many versions, the original design error still caused the F-104 aircraft to suffer extremely high accident rates. Actually, the F-104 Starfighter was really a distinct aircraft design. The platform presented a streamlined aerodynamic fuselage design, holding all the vital components in a cramped internal layout. The power plant, like the fuel, made up most of the internal space, covering about half of the tubular shape. The front end was tapered to a sharp point, while the cockpit top was well placed in the forward part of the design, offering extremely good visibility when flying or taxiing. The canopy consisted of three major components: a forward frame section, a broadside opening center section, and a rearward section. Two small half-cycle intakes fed the single engine along the sides of the fuselage just behind the cockpit. The intake openings were fixed and not variable, and were equipped with cones to regulate the high-speed turbojet airflow. The undercarriage was fully allocated to the fuselage, with the two main gears retracting into the portion of the fuselage near the wing roots, and the nose square retracting under and behind the cockpit into the portion of the fuselage. The aircraft was quickly called the missile with a man in it, as its long, thin fuselage and stubby wings look more like a missile than a conventional aircraft. The F-104 was the first interceptor in service capable of flying above Mach 2 at sustained speeds. For its time, the design of the Starfighter was radical, as it was a small, straight-wing aircraft, while the majority of contemporary designs were much larger and featured square-back wings. Sweepback was used only on the leading edges, and there was a slight anti-roll to help fight Dutch roll, an aerial phenomenon that forces the aircraft sway or rock from side to side. The wings constituted a large component of the supersonic capabilities of the aircraft, and were found so sharply with edges that they presented dangers to the ground crews serving the aircraft, to the point that special protective devices had to be issued to these areas. The empennage finished the design and spun its stabilizer to the top edge of the vertical fin. The horizontal surfaces were a smaller smidgen than the main wings themselves, forcing engineers to make the main wings act anti-roll. Other dangerous aerial phenomena consistent with high-speed flight, a top-mounted horizontal surfaces also combated inertial coupling. The basic armament of the F-104 was the 20mm M61 Vulcan autocannon. The cannon, mounted at the lower part of the port fuselage, was fed by a 725-round drum behind the pilot's seat. With its firing rate of 6,000 rounds per minute, the cannon would empty the drum after just over 7 seconds of continuous fire. The gun's location was advantageous, as gun flash was not in the pilot's line of sight, and so could not interfere with night-adjusted vision. Two AIM-9 Sidewinder air-to-air missiles could be carried on the wingtip stations, which could also be used for fuel tanks. The F-104C and later models added a centerline pylon and two underwing pylons for bombs, rocket pods, or fuel tanks. The centerline pylon could carry a nuclear weapon. A catamaran launcher for two additional sidewinders could be fitted under the forward fuselage. Although the installation had minimal ground clearance and rendered the sickle heads of the missiles vulnerable to ground debris. The F-104S models added a pair of fuselage pylons beneath the intakes available for conventional bomb carriage, and an additional pylon under each wing, for a total of 9. The final production version of the fighter model was the F-104S, an all-weather interceptor designed by Alitalia for Italian Air Force and equipped with radar-guided AIM-7 Sparrow missiles. An advanced F-104 with a high-mounted wing, known as the CR-1200 Lancer, was considered but did not proceed past the mock-up stage. My video of F-104 Starfighter ends here. Thank you for watching. If you find this video interesting, please give me your thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to support the channel. Goodbye and see you again in the next videos.